Hi, hope you guys had a lovely reading month in May. Honestly, mine was a bit more here and there with the things that I ended up reading, to be fair. So I read a whopping 16 books, and then from them I think there was 3 that was physical and the remaining others were all via audiobook. So let's begin actually. So the first book that I ended up reading was A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova. So essentially, in this one, we're following this worm go. So for some reason, human beings have somehow walked into this elven world, and therefore they can't really go back. So the only thing that she's able to do now is that because of every 100 years, a human with magic is born, and basically when they come of age, they end up going to the elven king to be able to make sure that there's spring, and they balance out the seasons, and then the endless winter goes away. But there's a lot going on, but I didn't necessarily like the book that much. It started out very kind of very predictable with the manipulative guy best friend, and I gave it 2 stars. The next book that I ended up reading was Cinderella is Dead by Keelan Bayron, from Bayron. So essentially, we're following this one girl, and essentially, everyone in her village or place where she's from all know about the story of Cinderella, how she found her prince and the fairy godmother, and because of this, now there's basically women have barely any rights, and it's more like once you get married to your husband, you're his property, and a lot of things go down. And there's a love interest between her and her best friend that doesn't work out. And so, yeah, I gave that one 3 stars. The next one that I read, surprisingly enough, I did not necessarily think I was going to like this one, but I actually really, really did. So it's called Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Hawkett. And so we're basically following this one woman, and so she is a very enthusiast about fairies, and so she basically is not necessarily, you could say it in this way, that she's not more like an outcast, not really, she's just very particular in the ways that she does things, and because of that she doesn't really have that many friends, or barely any friends at all, apart from this one guy who she suspects might be a fairy. And so they basically go to, because they always have to research the different types of fairies in different places, and so they go up north to, I believe it was Norway in the book. And so a lot of things are going down because there's this fairy that is going there and doing loads of different types of things, taking kids, and so she basically helps the villagers, and a lot of things goes on from there, and I really, really liked it, to be fair. I gave it 4 stars. The next book that I ended up reading is The Missing of Claire de Lune by Christella Dabos. And so this is the second book in the quartet, and basically we're still following our main protagonist and how she was basically sold off for arranged marriage in a different arc so that her family will not be in trouble. But a lot of things are going down because she's getting to know her betrothed a bit more, and seeing why the world that they live in is so mischievous, and different types of things are going down. And it was really, really good. I definitely recommend if you're looking for something that is fantasy, but also there's a lot of deception and different things going on, and I gave it 4 stars. The next one I read was a little novella, to be fair. It's called Princess Floralinda and the 40 Flights Tower. So essentially we're following this one girl. So she's basically locked up in a tower, and the wicked witch tells her, "Oh, you're very pretty. Just in a few days, people are gonna help you and everything like that." 41 dead princes later, I believe it was 41 or 25 dead princes later, she just basically dying off. She can't stand the bread and the milk and orange that the witch left her, and she's basically fights her way down. And then there's this one little, I'm not sure if it's a pixie or fairy, that she ends up falling in love with, that's basically has a penchant for blowing up things. And it was very funny, to be fair. And it's, if you want a very light-hearted, not really a story that is not necessarily the norm, but it will just make you feel happy, this is something I definitely recommend you guys read. I then read the second installment. It's called Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands by Heather Hawkett. And so this is basically following from the installment of the first book, as her book in the first one was a huge success, and so now she goes to a completely different place because she's trying to understand or make a map of the other world so that it makes it more condensed. And because of that, but things are going on because she is now in a way betrothed to a fairy, which is interesting, and lots of things are just going on because of like she's trying to figure out different types of things, trying to figure out a mixture of like a missing woman who for some reason is actually a bitch, and a lot goes from there. There's a lot of intrigue and also like outwitting fairies, and was definitely a delight. The next one I ended up reading was Lie With Me by Philippe Besson. So essentially, in this book, we're following, it's basically more like a coming of age story. We are basically following the boy in the story who later on becomes an author. However, because of like, it's basically in the 1950s, 60s or so, and because of like LGBT rights were not really a thing, it's more like him like fooling around with different boys and then falling in love with one boy that he really likes. However, because fate will have it and everyone thinks that he's just going to be someone completely different, so they don't really like, it's kind of like you can see it's essentially tells the story of how like lost time, lost opportunities, and reminiscing on like youth and how things are so completely different. It's a very, very short book. However, it's really, really sweet and sad. So you've been warned. The next one I read was Battle Drum by Sarah E. Arifi. It's this one right here, and essentially we're following, it's the second book installment of the trilogy, and we're still following Anor and Sila and also Hassa story. So Sila ends up going to the mainland, and a lot of things are not as it seems because they're finding out there's so much more than to the blood-based magic system. There's been lies. The Empire has been lying to them for a long time. Hassa is still trying to figure out to be a good spy, but also there's a relationship going on, which I thought was so sweet. And then Anor being Anor useless. If I do say myself, she that one, I swear to God, that girl, she is useless. However, it just makes the story come up a lot better because there's a lot more loose ends being tied up, and it just makes so much more sense. And I definitely feel like this one was a lot better than the first book. I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. The next book that I ended up reading was, just bear with me, it's called The Court of Cruel and Lovely by Stacia Stark. And so I would not lie, this book was not that good. It was bad. It's more like if you think of A Court of Thorns and Roses and all the other like very how do you call it, but other like themed type of books with like courts and fairies. It's that because like the author I don't know, because the story just felt very flushed out. Maybe it's because of the first book in the series, but all the characters was not likable at all, and it was so predictable, and the female main character was useless too. So 1 star. The next one that I read was a monster romance. It's called Sweet Berries by C.M. Nacosta. And so this is following another protagonist within the series. And so she's basically, how would you say this? So she's just doing like a normal job, everything. She moves into like a city full of monsters. And then for some reason, because she's at a farm that just does like normal, like helping the farm out, she ends up not really meeting. It's a very weird encounter because she was basically, the best way to say it, she was doing the naughty at home by herself, and then someone was watching her from outside and she liked that, and then there's a lot that goes on. It was funny but also weird. By the way, the guy is a mothman. I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. 3 stars. And then the next one I ended up reading was Mary in Christmas by Talia Hibbert. And so it's basically about this one girl who is not having a very easy time right now. She's a barrister, and because of like the things that's going on, because of like she's trying to help this one person, she loses her job, or rather she quits, and then she follows this one guy that she has been had a crush on that is like a very famous tattoo artist, and a lot of things go from there. It's like a very sweet like Christmassy book. In a way, I gave it 4 stars at the beginning, but I'm gonna give it 3.5 after thinking about it for a while now. Then the next one that I ended up reading was A Sweet Sting of Salt by Rose Slutterland. And so what we are following is this one woman. So give or take woman. She's like 24. Like, yes, she's a woman. And so because of like she had a very a childhood friend that she really really liked more than a friend, but because of like the entire village knew about it and they weren't really happy about it, so therefore her other friend gets married and she ends up becoming like a midwife. Like, yes, people don't really like her because of like they all have like this notion of hide your daughters from her, she's going to make them impure, da 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 kind of nonsense. So obviously those things are going on. She's living alone in her shed where her dad made it for her, but for her there was also a lot of like things because she has like a bit of a trauma because of her mother died the same way another girl that she tried to help when's giving birth also died. So then she meets this one woman that is a surprise encounter because the woman tried getting to the sea heavily pregnant, and then she basically helps her deliver the baby. But the woman is quite different. I think she is from Ireland, I believe. She doesn't really speak that much English, but like there's like a companionship, friendship going on that potentially goes into love. And for some reason, the woman can change into a sea dog, a seal. Is that a seal? Sea puppy. Them cute things. Those, not walruses. The other thing, I forgot what they're called. And yeah, there's a love story and different types of things, and an abusive husband who is more manipulative. He's not abusive as in physically abusive, but more verbally abusive. And there's a lot that goes on from there. I get 4 stars. The next one I ended up reading was Only for a Week by Natasha Bishop. And so it's basically about this girl that she's going to a wedding in like in a tropical place for her sister. Turns out that the groom is her ex-boyfriend for a year, and her ex-boyfriend proposed to her sister in less than 3 to 6 months, which I thought was wow. But for some reason, because of this, now she's like a very high achieving woman. She has a doctorate. She's doing her she's already finished her doctorates, and she's doing relatively well. But she has a long-standing dream to open up a midwifery or like a practice to help like Black American women or Black women in general, so that it would be more safe for them. And so things are just going on from there. She's not necessarily she doesn't even mind that her sister's getting married to her ex-boyfriend that she didn't really like as much anyway, but it's more to do with everyone just keeps on telling her, oh, are you okay? Her mother is like, are you okay? Or they're always having this nonsense notion saying that that she's envious of her sister. And I just thought, okay, cool, fine. But then she's like having like this one only for a week kind of thing with this one guy, one of the best friends of her ex-boyfriend, and he's a lot sweeter. And yeah, 4 stars. By the way, did I say it was a millionaire romance? I don't know, all of them seem rich, not sure why, but they're all rich. So, and then the next thing that I read was Concerning My Daughter by Kim Hein Jin. So essentially in this one, it's a short like story talking about a woman who obviously, because of like she's not had it very easy, she's tried her best to make sure that her daughter has the best life, but also in a way resents the fact that she let her daughter dream, because obviously her daughter dreamt about like becoming like a very good like teacher, has been going to books after books after books, but she also fears because like she her job is to take care of the elderly, and obviously she has a strong attachment to one of these women that is there, and just sees like the fleeting notion of basically feeling the need to say that the older you get, the more of a burden you're going to be to society later on, and that she fears for that for herself, but also for her daughter that refuses to get married. Her daughter's already in her like mid-30s, but then her daughter one day brings back a woman home and says, oh yeah, this is my girlfriend. And the mom is like, concerning my daughter, not knowing how to react. She's very vicious, vengeful towards the daughter's partner. However, a lot of things goes on, and it makes her understand the struggles that the daughters go through. However, from the entire book, I felt like it was more like the mother was trying to justify her action towards everything, and also her daughter, not really understanding everything, but she tries. 3 stars. And then the next book that I ended up reading is A Soul to Keep by Opal Rainey. And this was definitely something. It wasn't necessarily what I was expecting. I was expecting a lot better. However, it wasn't really that bad. It was actually still relatively good. So we basically found our main protagonist there on the cover, if you can see it. And so she, because of like event happened. Her entire family was killed, but she survived. But for some reason, the entire village keeps on thinking that, oh, she's a bad omen. And I'm just like, you uneducated idiots. Like, she didn't do nothing. But okay. And so essentially, that one guy over there, what was his name again? Demon, no, Dennis, I forgot what his name is. However, he basically takes her as the human sacrifice. Basically, he looks mean and everything like that, but he's basically a cinnamon roll. All he wants is just to be loved and have a companion to stay with. And he, in a way, don't get me wrong, because he eats a lot of humans, he ends up having lots of human attributes. However, the way that he behaves makes me think that, oh, he still has a long way to go, because I would think that you've been taking women for the past few centuries, yet you do not understand the normal of when a woman goes through a period or anything like that. I was just like, what did the other people do while they were there with you? I mean, it was still relatively cute, just very weird. And in a way, I'm still going to continue with the series. So I ended up giving it 3 stars. I know that doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, it was still like a nice ride. And then the last book that I ended up reading for the month was Burning God by R.F. Kuang. And wow, this book, it was a lot of things, because it was tying a lot of loose ends together, but also it was so super sad because of all like the deception, and the things were high, and obviously like Rin and what's his other name? Rin was going through a lot of things, and all the other characters were also going through a lot of things. Like not Kaseki, the other guy, Katai was. I swear to God, that guy did so much for her. And also the quote saying that you can ruin me, break me, everything, I'll follow you regardless. And I was just thinking, wow. And this was just so sad. And also, what's the other guy's name again? The one guy that she liked. Did not like that guy at all. But I can also understand where he's coming from in terms of like, oh, let's just have an occupation. They can break us, ruin us, everything, but we are still strong as long as we keep the history going. And it was a very like sad conclusion to the entire trilogy. I ended up giving it 4 stars. To be fair, I gave both of the other books 5 stars, but it's more like I liked those ones more because it was more driven. So now we're getting into the last segment of the book of the video. Thank God. So I'm planning on reading, give or take, 6 books, physical books next month. I'm not necessarily sure how that's supposed to work, but let's get into it anyway. So the first one I want to read is Paradise Rot by Jenny. Yeah, you can see it here. And so this one is basically about this one woman who's going into university, and a lot of weird things happens, and it's also about her sexual awakening, and it's a cult favorite. Then I'm also going to read A Wolf Steps in Blood by Tamara J. Gree. All I know, this is paranormal, woman-loving woman, and there's werewolves. There's not much really to say about it. I just thought it was interesting, to be fair. And then afterwards, I'm going to be reading the second book of the series, the Deathwalker Bride series. So this is A Soul to Heal by Opal Rainey. And basically, the guy that we're following, the monster we're following, was in the first book. And he's a stupid puppy. He's not really eating enough human beings to actually be more like coherent or... is it coherent or cohesive? One of the two. Of known, but however, I just thought I did not need to, because I didn't necessarily. The first book was okay, but I feel like this one is going to be a lot more endearing. Or maybe it's because he's kind of stupid. Yeah. Then I'm going to read Friday Black by Nana Kwame Ajayi Brenya. This is just a short story collection of different stories following, and I thought, yeah. Then I swear, it's like every single month I keep on bringing this book out. But this is Lakiri Boto by Yodele Tunde. Yeah. This one. I got it for free from Aesop Queer Library last year. I'm not even sure if this year they're going to even do one. But however, I do need to read this. Plus the cover is just so nice. And then the last book that I want to read, whether or not I'm going to read it is a different story, is The Sword of Kaigan by M.L. Wang. MF Wong. And so I'm not necessarily sure what this one is about. I've had this for like years, but it's more to do that I know that it's like really interesting. Plus, I know that the author is coming out with another book later on this year, or it's maybe even out already, because I know some people have arcs of it. One day I will be getting arcs. One day. I just want to read this book. It's quite chunky. However, loads of people said that this is like a really, really good fantasy book, and I just want to read it. So yeah. Anyway, how is your reading in May, and what type of books are you planning on reading? Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video, and have a good one. Bye.